Jeep. This is our 89 Jeep Islander, the Wrangler, but it's a special cool edition. And we put an LS in it and a turbo 350 and no transfer case. Sorry, Jeep guys. This thing's gonna be a hot rod instead of 4x4 rig. The main reason for that is I live in the middle of LA and there is nowhere to take this thing on dirt. So we're gonna put drag slicks on it and put some whoopings on some Mustangs and Hondas and whatever. So let's get into the build. So the Jeep has a 4-inch lift kit on it. It came with it when I bought it, and it's got some 31-inch Falcons on it. It's a good tire size. Originally, this thing had fender flares all up and down the side, but it just looked really super 80s cheese ball. So I went ahead and got rid of them. I don't know what we're gonna do for that, but something will come along. We did the classic trailer lights and get rid of those old bulky lights that look like Legos. And this is where you can really see the super cool Islander edition on the side here. It came with the sun and the ocean and this really rad Islander logo, and below it I had to add in that LSX logo. This thing has been LS swapped. We'll get into that in a second. But I found these seats on the side of the road actually, which was insane. Somebody was just tossing them out. I think they pulled them out of a Bronco or a Scout. So I retrofitted them in here, and they're actually really nice because they sit a lot lower, and so your head's not up in the speaker bar like most Jeeps. And I went ahead and fabbed up the center console using some aluminum, some carbon fiber wrap, and then under it is a steel base where the Allen heads can screw into it with a nice finishing washer. And of course, we'll come around to the other side. This is my trunk. I made a little steel trunk with the lock here. It is super low buck, but when me and the lady go out on a date in the Jeep, she can lock her purse in the trunk, and eventually I'll be able to lock the steering wheel in the trunk when I get the quick release. So coming on the inside, this is our center console and my Winter's Brother racing shifter for a turbo 350. You'll notice it's set up for a reverse manual valve body, but we didn't do that yet. I don't know if I'm gonna do it, but I do want a full manual valve body. But anyway, 1 is drive, 2 is 2, 3 is 1. So it's kind of confusing, but I know how to drive it, so it doesn't bother me. And under here in this mess of wires is the Terminator X, the glorious Terminator X. We mounted everything all up in there. There's a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up here, clearly. And we got the screen here as well. So there's a lot of wiring going on, a lot of funkiness, but we're gonna address all that stuff and try to clean it up as nice as we can. I don't know if you can see, but on that side there's another bundle of wires. Those control the Amazon rock lights. So we'll be using them for drag radial lights, but it'll be really sweet when it's done. So let's get this hood open and check this thing out. So these are some aftermarket 4x6 headlights. You can find them on Amazon, and I think they were made for the Jeep. I'm not 100% sure, but they come with this really rad harness. So they just plugged right in. I didn't have to cut up any of the stock harness. But now that we're into the Jeep here, you can see our badass super rad Griffin radiator up front. That thing works amazing. It keeps this thing so freaking cool all day long. It can sit at 180. Sometimes it'll climb to 190 on a hot day, but I think a lot of that also has to do with our open air box here. So I think we're gonna end up rerouting it and making a box around this area, and we can use the holes in the back of the grill as pickups for cold air. So the motor itself is a 5.3. It's a junkyard motor. If you're looking for junkyard motors, you can contact Steph at Ace Performance, or if you're looking for a full build, you can contact Steph at Ace Performance. So we threw some pretty parts on this stuff. It was originally a truck motor, and we threw the LS1 intake on it. And when you do that, you get your throttle body in the way of the pulley. This old pulley used to be right about here. So ICT billet makes this really rad conversion. And now we've moved the pulley to the side. giving us the room we need to clear this really rad throttle body. This is some cheap, I think it was like 80 bucks on Amazon, some throttle body, but it works like a champ. And it has a really easy set screw here, because if you know you're working with the Terminator X, you're going to need to adjust that a couple times. We also are running the truck injectors. I believe these are the injectors for the E85. Correct me if I'm wrong, people, but we are not running E85, but we have the set of injectors laying around, and these silver things are spacers from ICT Billet, and they allow that fuel rail to sit on top of the motor or on top of the intake and give the proper spacing. So the injectors are all pretty sweet. It's a sweet setup. ICT Billet coil pack holder here too as well. We're running stock plugs on this thing, and it seems to be doing just fine, so it's happy with that. And back behind all of this stuff is a Turbo 350 with no transfer case. I want to spend less stuff and less things to break, so if anything's going to break, it's most likely going to be the rear end, which is still, unfortunately, the stock Dana 35. Eventually, this thing's going to get herself an 8.8 and some sort of locker in it, or maybe even like a full spool, so they'll just be locked all the time. Let's come around the side here, and you can see our super simple trans cross member there, and our exhaust running out and just straight up dumping right over the top of the axle. So pretty stoked on that. And check out these bad boys, these little cutouts. I bought them from Jegs, and I wanted to have them put in when we're doing the exhaust. So that's going to save me a little bit of time, and I can just buy the motors and bolt them on. I don't have to do any more welding later in the future. Still don't have our bell housing cover or torque converter cover on yet, but that will come in time. And as you can see here, there's no cross member under the motor, so it saves all kinds of room, and you can basically run whatever pan you want as long as it's not too close to the front axle. So you guys are probably dying to hear me stop talking and hear what this thing sounds like, so I'm gonna go ahead and start her up. We also have a 2500 stall B&M behind the motor here, and we got that from a good friend, and that thing is rad. It's the perfect amount. Anything more would be just too much for a street rig like this, but it's perfectly dailyable. Oh man, this thing is so much fun. Well guys, that's the tour of the Ugly Duck. This thing is so fun. It's just the perfect amount of like street fun, but not too crazy. there's going to be more stuff going on in this thing in the future, so stay tuned. But thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and check out Ace Performance, and I'm sure you guys all know Lucky Costa. He helped me with this build. There's a ton of people out there who put a lot of work into this, as well as a lot of the Gasratz guys. So give everybody a thumbs up, go like their pages, do what you got to do. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.